As we go through this, mostly just going to look at, the basics of the initial setup of all this kind of stuff. So we're looking at, customizing your profile for how it appears in the app, adding images, administrators, creating a season, creating registrations, and then we'll talk a little bit about fantasy at the end as well. So we'll go through all those things. Let's go ahead and get started. When you initially log in to My Race Pass, this is the page that you come to. We call it the dashboard screen. You can always navigate to it by clicking on the My Race Pass logo up in the upper left. And it's basically just the landing page used for navigation mostly. You can see season management, race management, profile, and website management on the bottom of the screen. And they correspond with buttons on the tabs list on the left, season management, web management, all that kind of stuff. As we scroll down this page, you'll be able to see the app favorites. So folks can actually favorite your profile in the My Race Pass app on their phones or on their devices. And the advantage for folks doing so is they'll actually get push notifications on their device when you guys have a rain out or when a news article goes live or when your fantasy groups are open, races start, those types of things. They can get push notifications in the app for those types of things. I typically recommend to have your announcer, your PA announcer, even mention that throughout the evening. Hey, if you want to stay up to date on what's going on at your racetrack, visit our website, or you can also favorite your favorite track in the app and get notified of different events that way. So we scroll down the page. There's two other things that I want to highlight. One is this current subscription information. You can view your subscription details here. In the profile tab, you can get more information, and I'll show you that as we come to it. There's also a sandbox area. I'm in a demo profile, so it just is telling me sandbox doesn't exist yet. But for your active profiles, we'll get sandboxes set up for all of those profiles. And the sandbox is just a siloed environment that's a direct copy of your live environment data. So you can use it for testing different lineup schemes that we've got available, or what happens when I click this button, or different things like that. So it's always available for you, available for use. It refreshes automatically to match your new live data every Monday. So starting off a new week, basically, you'll have fresh data in your sandbox to play with, and you can use that as you see fit. There's also help and support information over here. There's a help center that I'll show you later on that has a ton of information, to kind of help you along your way using My Race Pass. But that's the dashboard page. So I'm going to move forward here to the profile tab, we call it. And there's a few pieces of information here that I'll show you. First, in this profile tab on the account area, you can update your images. So your profile image, your header image, those images are what show on your public profile or in the My Race Pass app for your facility. Typically a profile image, we see track logos, kind of do a lot of things for header image, whether that's an overhead view of the track or just information or, some kind of graphic, whatever you want it to be. But, it helped kind of differentiate your track from everybody else's when folks go to the app. You can also edit your profile information. So that edit button takes you to this profile tab where you're basically just putting in information about your track that you want fans to be able to see in the My Race Pass app. Your track basics, length and shape and banking, things of that nature. Address information is here as well. If you want any of that to be publicly listed in the app, you absolutely can, whether it's physical or mailing address or contact information. There is a location option in here as well where you can pin your facility here in this screen, and that will give people basically Google Maps directions to your racetrack through the app. So, another thing to kind of help your fans or drivers find you. There's a track feature section. So everything kind of above this is largely going to be, you set it once and you don't look at it again. Like unless you reshape or physically move your racetrack, you just really never edit any of that information. The track features section, I would say, is something that you should look at least once a year. For changing as you do improvements to your facility or updates to your facility. Some of this stuff becomes important. It's basically amenities information if you think of it that way. Like for fans, is there camping on site? Do you allow coolers? Do you allow credit cards? Those types of things. For, in the pits, do you have electric? Do you sell fuel? Do you sell tires? That kind of stuff. And you can check the dates that you race weekly as well in the screen if you'd like. But some of those amenities can be a little bit more important for you to keep track of accurately, like I say, at least once a year. Last section here is aliases. If your racetrack or series has ever been known by a different name, you can add that old name as an alias. And that way, if somebody searches for the old name, it'll bring them to the right place. Same can be true if there's variations on the way you spell your name. I always use the example right down the street from us, I-80 Speedway. They've got, I space 80 Speedway is their track name. Well, they go into the aliases and they typed I-80 or I-80 with no space. It's just different aliases. So if somebody can search for a variation of what your track name is, you can have that alias and they won't get lost or go to the wrong place for it. There is an edit name city option at the bottom of this screen as well. So if you are going to change the name of your tracker series, you can use this edit name city to bring you to a screen where you can change the city, change the name, all that kind of stuff. Now, when you edit the name or city of your track or of a driver, and we'll get to that later on, it goes through an approval process here at My Race Pass. So don't feel like it's going to change immediately, but we'll make sure that everything changes as it's supposed to when you submit those requests. The next tab in the screen is billing information. And billing information will kind of show you what you would expect a billing page to show you. You can update the card on file here. You can view your current subscription type here. I know that NASCAR is paying for the equivalent of a plus plan for all NASCAR tracks and series that are sanctioned this year. I have no idea what the agreement is for 24 or beyond. I only know what 23 is, and 23 is NASCAR paying for it. So largely, you should just have to come in here and put a card on file and not select a subscription type. But we can hammer out those details for each of you individually as well. On this screen, you can also view your invoices. So they all come up in a PDF. Click on the link, brings up a PDF of past invoices. We email those to you as well when the invoice is due. But you can view all past invoices here. And then there's also a screen where you can add all access accounts for app subscriptions. So just a little information on the app. The app itself is free. All you can view your track schedule, your point standings, entries, lineups, and results for free in the app. There are a couple of paid features for the app, one of them being live timing and scoring, which comes out to a cost of about $8 a year. There's also an option for to be able to play fantasy in the app, fantasy racing, and that ends up being around $5 a month to be able to play fantasy racing. So this screen will allow you to, depending on what plan type you have, either 2, 4, or 6 free app subscriptions to give out to your staff members or whoever needs them. So keep in mind that that is an option for you there as well. The next tab is rewards information. This rewards information I'm not going to really cover because it is in the process of changing. We will still have a rewards program. We're still deciding on what the best route to take, especially for NASCAR tracks, is for that rewards program. So I'm not going to really spend any time here. And obviously you guys are all getting a free plus plan this year anyway, so it's not really going to apply. So then I'll skip down to users. Users is your administrators area. This is how you're adding admins. Now, there's 3 different user types. There is a ticket redemption user, a box office user, and then a site administrator. The differences are this between the 3. Ticket redemption and box office largely has to do with our online ticketing platform, which we'll cover later in the week. But ticket redemption is basically just the ability to scan tickets in the app if you want to turn that on for anybody at your front gate. Box office is our point of sale system, our front gate box office point of sale. So if you're selling online tickets through us and you want to have a point of sale system as well, this is how you turn that screen, that permission on for those users. But the one we really want to cover here is the site administrators. Site administrators now are your admins. This is where you're adding admins. So scorers, or if you want your announcer to have some of these admin privileges, or basically anybody, website builder, anybody who's going to come in and need to access any of the features or tools on the back end, you want to add as a site administrator. Really simple to add a site administrator. Just a matter of clicking the add user permissions option. And then it's just first, last email address and what permissions you want them to have access to. So again, really straightforward here. I will tell you that anybody who you type an email address in here for and they do not already have a My Race Pass account, they will get sent an email prompting them to create a My Race Pass account, and they can end up logging into the admin side or logging into the app with those same credentials to make it simple and easy for them. In terms of logging into your profile, we kind of have a shortcut website that we use. It's just called mrpadmin.com. So I'll show that to you here. mrpadmin.com. There's a couple of different ways to access an admin site, whether you go direct URL or from a website or whatever. But mrpadmin.com, if you're an administrator on multiple profiles, will just bring you to a list of the profiles that you're an administrator on to make it really easy for you to navigate where you want to go. You know, multiple racetracks, multiple series, multiple driver profiles in here. So it just mrpadmin.com, click the profile you want to go to, and there you can go to manage that. So, you know, keep in mind, keep that URL handy. But that's basically the process of adding an administrator. If you need to remove one for whatever reason, you just, use the edit button over here, press delete, and you can remove an administrator that way, as you see fit. We get this question a lot, so I'll answer it here. Do you have to have everybody with their own set of credentials, or can you just share username and password? There's nothing technically preventing you from sharing, although I would strongly advise against it. For this reason, you have a scorer who you need to let go for some reason, bad terms, whatever else. If you're letting them go, now with this, you can just turn their access off as an administrator. Doesn't change anything for anyone else. If you're all sharing credentials, now we have to talk about changing the password for that one account and making sure that that person doesn't get wind of what that new password is. For security reasons, just works a whole lot better if anyone who needs access has their own set of credentials in the screen. Really advise against sharing just for the security part of it. There's really nothing in the permissions tab. It's a holdover from when we didn't have multiple user permissions in the users tab. Clear Cache is a developer tool, so you won't see that. But that's basically everything in the profile tab. All pretty straightforward stuff there. Just basically the initial setup of what your app profile looks like, your administrators, and those types of things. So we'll move on from there. I'm going to move on to the next area of my race pass, which we call season management. Season management is the process of creating a season, getting ready for 2023 basically, or your new season, adding your events to your schedule, viewing your point standings, and then we'll talk about fantasy at the end as well. But with every new season we have to create the new season. You see, I already have 2023 up in the upper left, but if you click the drop down, a lot of you guys will come to the screen and create a new season if you're first-time My Race Pass users. So you basically just create 2023 at that point. I already have 2023, so I'm not going to. But we get this question too a lot, so I'll answer it here. There's nothing preventing you from going in and adding old seasons. If you want to have all of your old past results in My Race Pass, you can add prior seasons. You can create all of those prior events, and you can add the results to all those prior events if you want that data to be historically accurate in My Race Pass. There's nothing preventing you from doing so. Once you have a season created, we'll come down to the config tab, and the config tab is now where I'm going to start implementing the series that are coming to my racetrack and the classes that I'm running at my racetrack as well. So I always start with the series just because it's a little bit more efficient to do it that way. So when you add a new series, there's an add series option. It'll first bring you to a screen with all of the series that you've used in the past, but there's also an all series option if you're adding someone new, where you just come in as a string of text. So if I'm adding, the Cars Tour, I know that's a popular one right here. You can just add the Cars Tour, or same thing, the new ASA Stars. I can add the new ASA Stars National Series, click on them and add. It looks like there's an error message coming up, but this is actually why it's more beneficial to add the series first. It's telling me ASA Stars requires Asphalt Super Late Models as a class. So if I continue, now at the bottom of the screen of my season classes, it's automatically added the Asphalt Super Late Models. That's typically why I do the series first, and then I do the classes after that. So once I've got all the series that I need added, now it's time to start adding our weekly classes. So when I go to the Add Classes option, couple of different ways to do this. There's an all classes option and a sanctioned classes option. So all of your classes that you're running that are going to be sanctioned by NASCAR, we'll choose sanctioned classes. In our list of sanctioning bodies, we'll choose NASCAR. And then we can add any of these classes, because these are the approved NASCAR sanctioned classes from the list. Now, I understand that a lot of you guys are going to run unique classes. The names might not add up immediately. Instead of mini stocks, you might run a trophy stock. Instead of 4 cylinders, you might call them Hornets, whatever. Just know that add the closest thing, the very closest thing, and then you can change the name of the class if you need to, and I'll show you how to do that. If there's something that you're running that's way outside of the realm of anything that we have listed here, let me know. We can get with NASCAR and get it added as an approved class. But we've gone through this with NASCAR. We feel like you kind of run the gambit of all the classes that are necessary. So choose the closest thing that you can, and then we can rename it later on. So once you've got all of your classes added, if you need to rename them, anywhere you go in season management, there's a settings option in the upper right. In the settings option, there's lineups and points and pay schemes, which we'll cover in a later date. But the one that I want to look at right now is manage classes. So if I go to the manage classes screen, it's going to bring me to a list of all the classes I use, and there's a name override field. So instead of 360 sprint cars, I call them MRP 360 sprints, that kind of stuff. Instead of Snow Pro, I call them Pro Lights. So you can rename the classes however you'd like. Again, use a class that's very similar to what you're doing. If you're going to run a 4-cylinder sport compact Hornet class, don't choose 410 wing sprint cars as your class. Those are two different things. But choose the asphalt sport compacts, rename them Hornets, that kind of thing. So you can rename your classes the way you'd like. Another way that this comes up where it's really beneficial is if you're doing class sponsors, if you sell that as a marketing piece to a marketing partner. Now, because you're using My Race Pass, that marketing partner is now getting app impressions to millions of fans. There are millions of fans in My Race Pass in the app every week. And those marketing partners now can start to get some of those eyeballs. So you're adding a little bit of value for them. So instead of super stocks, you can have your Bob's Garage super stocks. Instead of 410 wing sprints, you can have your 410 outlaw sprints fueled by Casey's, those types of things. So really valuable for that purpose as well. But from there, I've got my series added. I've got my classes added. Now at this point, I can start to add my schedule. So I'm going to come down to the events tab, and I can add a schedule. Now you can see we've got multiple schedules here. And I want to make sure that the nomenclature is clear between season and schedule. A season is just a calendar year. A season for 2023, we're wedging everything in that year into that, Jan 1 to December 31. A schedule is a point standing or a unique and specific points calculation. So there's a track in Ohio that we have that I use this example. I think it's in Michigan, actually, where they have their regular 25 race schedule. And then they've got 6 nights throughout the course of that year that they call a Big Six series that calculate points independently of their regular weekly racing. So they have 2 schedules for that reason. They have the regular season schedule and their Big Six schedule. We've got a lot of folks who will run like a 3-night special event over the course of one weekend, 3 nights, and they'll line up the 3rd night based off of the points calculated from the first 2. So that would be, warrant its own schedule. The first 2 nights calculate points. That way you can use those point standings to calculate night 3. And I know specific to NASCAR tracks, there's a couple of folks who do like a championship night at the end, similar to what NASCAR does with their playoff format or whatever. And we've kicked around the idea of using a different schedule for those championship nights, whether it be 1 night or 4 nights or whatever it is at the end. And I think that would work well for that purpose as well. If you're doing something like that, it might be best to get a hold of one of us individually, and we can kind of talk through that process to make sure it's right for you. But yeah, multiple reasons to have more than one schedule. That being said, the bulk of racetracks that we work with, at least 85% of them have 1 schedule per season, which is what's normal. So you can add a new schedule up here, 2023, whatever else. I'm just going to use the one that we've already used. So now I can look at all of the events in that schedule, and I can start to add events. The process of adding events is really, 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 really simple. We're just clicking on the dates on the calendar that we want to add events for, and then you'll hit next. I'm only going to add 1 date right now, but we'll hit next. And then you can start adding the classes that are going to be a part of that night. So you can name your event. Apparently typing and talking is hard to do at the same time. Name your event, NASCAR Webinar 1. Put in any description information that you want. Like if you want it to be purse information, if you want it to be ticket information, you want to tell everybody there's a county fair in town, if you want to, you know, whatever you want to do that way, you can put any description you want in your event. Then you can add classes to your event. And the classes are just a list of classes taken from the config tab. That's all this is. So I'll just add stock cars to my event, add your times, whatever, you know, whatever times everything happens. We'll add that, and racing starts at 7. Perfect. And then we'll hit add. Now this says add down here because I just selected one date on my calendar. If you were to select multiple dates on your calendar, this would say add and next. And then you would hit add and next. And whatever you have selected for times and whatever you have selected for classes would be what we call sticky. So it would remember those, and they would show up like this, already selected. Now I can deselect any of those in a future event if I want. I can edit the times, but it makes it a little bit faster to add multiple events at once. But I'll go ahead and add that event, and we're good to go from there. The other things you can do with the schedule, I can edit my schedule to where I can add a different description that's unique to that schedule. I can add it to a different season if I need to. I'll do all the stats and fantasy leaderboards. Then I can also add downloads to the schedule. Downloads come into play if you want your drivers, when they go to view the schedule, to be able to have some kind of form that they download. It's possible to do that here. I've seen people use this for like a flyer, you know, special event flyer, or a season-long event flyer, or whatever. You can add whatever you want there. There's also an advanced championship calculation option. This is one of the things that would take you to a higher plan. But if you have some kind of custom point standing, like if you're throwing out their worst 2 nights, or if you're doing rookie-specific points, or if you're doing a seniors points, or some kind of combined points for multiple classes, something that's kind of custom like that, pushes you into a higher plan because it makes us have to do some custom dev work to make it happen, but that's no problem. And this is where you can start that process of adding that custom championship, is down here on this screen as well. But from there, basically that's the process of creating a schedule, all of those types of things. So I will jump ahead to the points tab. Points will be what you kind of expect points to be. Points will show you events, features, wins, top 5s, top 10s, all that kind of stuff. That earnings column off to the right is not publicly available anywhere, and it oftentimes isn't right. So disregard the earnings column because we're eventually going to move on from that. But everything else in here is accurate, events, features, all that kind of stuff. If you click on the name of any driver in this screen, it'll give you a night-by-night audit of how that driver earned their points and pay. So this driver says, hey, the 22nd's wrong. I'll jump down to the 22nd. Got 5th, earned 125 and $0. For whatever reason, $0 was in there. But you can start to audit that on a driver basis night by night, because you know how drivers are. If they see anything that they don't understand in the point standing at all, they're going to call. And you want to make sure that you have this information available, so you know what has happened that night. And you can edit all of it if need be. That just takes you to the race management for that night. You can do the same thing on an included events basis. So if you've got points that are on for the 22nd, you can click that night for the 22nd and go and audit the points for everybody for that night. There's also a not included event section. So if you've got any event on your schedule that you ran that did not calculate points, it'll be here in a non-included event section. So it's just another visual indicator for you that he either A, I calculated points for this night, it's part of the point standings, or B, I did not, and it's not part of the point standings. I know a lot of folks run non-points nights that can be there. And then at the very bottom, there's this championship settings option, which is the same thing it was before, just another way to get there, advanced championship calculations. You can filter this screen by class at the very top of the screen. You can filter this screen by what schedule you're looking at the very top of the screen as well. So you can look at a number of different things that way. But yeah, all that stuff is there and available and good to go. Payments tab exists here as well. I'm going to look at the payments tab more in depth when we go through our race management walkthrough, which if I remember correctly is tomorrow. Yeah, we'll look at points and pay. Actually, Thursday is what we're looking at there, the 8th, when we go through points and pay. But just be aware you can come to this screen and you can review all of the purse payouts for each division, for each race night, on a basically a class by class and night by night basis. And you can do a couple of different things from this screen. One, you can run a yearly payout report. You can run our 1099 report. You can print checks from this screen. You can print a report the drivers use to sign for their checks. You can print mailing labels. You can export your payouts to QuickBooks. You can do a lot of those things, but I'll show you that more in depth on the 8th when we get to points and payout and what that's supposed to look like. So the last thing I'll show you on this screen, or excuse me, we need to go back in time. I need to go to registrations. Registrations exists here as well. Registrations is a way to gather driver information before the season starts. So we're looking at name, address, contact information like email and phone number. If there's a car owner, all that for the car owner. If there's an emergency contact, all that for the emergency contact. Car number, transponder number, all those types of things. So the information that you need for these drivers, basically, and they'll give it to you, and they'll audit their own information by using our registration process. The only thing our registration process does not capture, and we have no way of capturing, is social security number or tax ID information. So, for that reason, you'd still have to track social security numbers differently. But basically, everything else you need is in here. I'll edit a registration so you can see what it looks like. You can add whatever class you want, whether it's one or all, or however many classes you want to be a part of that registration. You can add a price to it if you charge some kind of membership fee or license fee or registration fee for your facility specifically. You can add an entry fee option here. The way that works is they'll pay it when they register through My Race Pass, and we will keep none of that money. All of it will be passed directly to you. Right now, we do that pass through PayPal, although we are exploring other options. So if you wanted to turn that on, you could turn on registration funds and start receiving money through PayPal immediately when someone registers. You can also set a base late fee. So if it's $20 to register, but if they register after a certain date, it's $30, you would put 10 in here. Same thing for your individual classes. If your sport compact class is $20 to register, but your 410s are $40 to register, put an additional 20 here. And then you can add downloads to registration here as well. This is valuable for if you have paper forms that exist that you need filled out that exist outside of our registration process. So like a W-9 or a minor release form or something like that. You can add that as a download here. When the driver registers online with My Race Pass, they'll get a confirmation email. When they receive that confirmation email, it'll have attached to it whatever you have in this download screen. So that can work well for you also. And then there's an online registration link. This takes you to directly where the registration lives, so you can take that link and put it anywhere. There's also a share button. You click the share button, you can post the registration link directly to Facebook or directly to Twitter. That way your drivers, will have access to it via social media. Makes it easier for them. Multiple registration types. There is a yearly registration, just what it sounds like, once per year, gather all their information. There's also an event-specific registration, so you can tie registrations to each race that you're running, each race night. There's a miscellaneous option, which, for any racing thing that the other two don't cover, you can use it for. And then there's also a general registration type, which we have keyed in for a non-race night, something like a pit party or a banquet or however you need folks to RSVP. You can use general registration for that if you'd like. So that all exists there. Then, okay, now we'll move ahead to fantasy. Fantasy racing will exist independently of anything that you do in the program. So based off of your entry list, folks will be able to go into the app. They'll be able to pick drivers from groups of 3 or 4, depending on how many cars you have. As your races are completed, they'll accumulate points automatically. At the end of a race night, if you ran 4 classes, you'll have 5 fantasy winners, one's for each class and an overall champion. It'll also calculate a year-long champion for each class and an overall year-long champion also, just automatically. What you can do to augment that experience is you can add a custom leaderboard here, whether you want that to be a custom date range or any one of your individual schedules. Again, if you're running like a Big 6 series, you can have a custom fantasy champion for those 6 races also. You can add what classes you want the custom leaderboard to apply to. And then when you get into the custom leaderboard, you can add prizes to it. You can add whatever you'd like as prizes, basically. You want that to be gift certificates from a marketing partner. Great. You want that to be T-shirts. You want that whatever you want as a prize here. And you can put it towards any position you want to put it towards, any kind of prize you want, title and description, valued, estimated at displays for the fans. So you can give away prizes, which is, again, another thing that I really want you to think about fan engagement for. I'm 30 years old. Folks my age or younger are probably going to be on their phone at the racetrack. That's just the reality of the world that we live in. So it's kind of up to you on if you want to use this as a fan engagement tool that you get behind, that you tell your announcer to get behind, that you put on your broadcasts, that you put on your social media, and have folks competing for stuff at your racetrack. Or you want them on Facebook looking at their buddy who went camping thinking maybe I should do that next weekend. It's going to be a lot better for you if you can have folks interacting with your event in the app on their mobile device. It's also something you can give to a marketing partner that probably creates a little bit more value for them than a billboard on the front stretch. I'm not saying that that's not valuable. Of course it is. But this way, you have something that's going to be in front of your, most diehard fans that they're going to be competing for and engaging with every week. There's a track that I'm aware of in Iowa that just sold the rights to their fantasy racing season-long championship to a grocery store for upwards like $4,000. And I'm not saying that everybody's going to be able to do that for thousands of dollars, but it's another line of revenue in a way that is engaging to your race fan that can be valuable for you at the racetrack. It's kind of a no-brainer for me. And again, if you can get marketing partners to give away prizes, 50% off oil changes to Bob's Garage, that's great. Different things like that. Suspension management is brand new for tracks. It is a part of a higher plan. So if you want to track your suspensions through My Race Pass, it is available to you. You can add a suspension here, or you can use the add suspension button in the middle. And you're basically putting in a start date for when the suspension happened, what type of suspension it was, rules, misconduct, whatever you want it to be. If there's any kind of fee, like you're charging them a fee, you can add that here. Who the person is that's being suspended, the date range, and next. So I will go ahead and suspend myself until, we're doing this now. April 15th and next. There we go. So I'm suspended until April 15th. It's unpaid, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to suspend myself in the 410 wing sprint car division. That's what that looks like. And then when somebody goes to the entry screen, which we'll show you when we go over race management, anybody who is suspended, when you go to the entry screen, it will tell you, it'll throw you an error message and you try to put them in the race that says, hey, this driver's suspended. You're not able to put them in the race, or if you put them in the race, you have to tell the program that you're bypassing the suspension. So when I go back to the suspension screen, it'll shows, okay, this hasn't been paid, the status is suspended, all that kind of stuff. View the suspension. I can now change this if I need to lifted. If the suspension's gone, I can change the payment to paid if that applies. So you know that they paid or not, and all that kind of stuff. So again, this is like a brand new feature. We just released this. I'm not kidding you, weeks ago, like maybe a week ago, honestly. And it's a way for drivers to, you to track driver suspensions here in this screen. And that's really all I have to show for this first session. Again, we went through app profile customizations, adding administrators, our season management tools like registration and creating schedules and fantasy racing. We'll do the same thing tonight at 7 p.m. Be the same topics, the same information. If you want to join again, great. If you want to not do that, you can join tomorrow. But we'll have 4 total this week. Tomorrow we'll go over tomorrow we'll go over points, payouts, our schemes, my 1099 report, and our other reports. And I'm looking at the wrong day here. No, I'm sorry. Tomorrow we'll go over race management with our entries, lineups, results, orbits, and race manager, live timing, the lineup monitor. Thursday we'll go over points, payouts, schemes, 1099 reports, and other event reports. And then the 9th we'll go over online tickets, our advanced ticketing features, news, website management tools, all that kind of stuff as well. So every day we'll have new information. tonight will be the same information as today. I know nobody put any questions into the chat, and I know largely this is just introductory into getting get a hold of some of the the simpler, more straightforward features of kind of the initial setup. But I'll leave it open here for a Q&A. If anybody has any questions, anybody has anything that they want to throw out over the topics that we've covered, let me know, throw them out, and we will talk over whatever we need to talk over. If no, I really appreciate you guys taking the time here out of your afternoon or potentially evening, wherever you're located. This is exciting for us to have the NASCAR tracks on board. We do this webinar series every spring, so this will happen annually. I also want to show you our link to our help center. We have, and I'll put it right in the chat here, it's mrphelp.com. We have a host of articles that we've written and gone through in the last 2 months that will show you any information that you want about how to do any of these things on the promoter side. So if you got questions, go there. You can also email us, support@myracepass.com. That is the link to our support inbox, or excuse me, the email address to our support inbox comes to me or Dakota or anyone else on our team, and we can get back to you, usually pretty efficiently when you have questions. So feel free to utilize that as well. But if nobody has anything to bring up, I appreciate you guys taking the time. Potentially we'll see you at 7. If not, we'll see you tomorrow. And hopefully this is beneficial for you guys.